New Salem combines the unlikely bedfellows of social deduction and tableau building. At the start of the game, you'll be assigned a Puritan or a Witch card. For a Witch to win, there needs to be a certain amount of despair in the town, depending on the player count. Otherwise, a Puritan will win. Each card has a number of symbols which will trigger some endgame scoring for them too. Witches are trying to flood the town with despair, and should they do that, then one of the witches will win at the end of the game. When you are drafting, you are trying to draft complete sets of buildings, depending on your goals. So here we have the pillory and the gallows, which are part of a set with a jail. And we see the pillory and gallows have added despair, but the last one adds hope, and at the end of the game they will remove 3 despair if they are completed. The constable plays a vital role as the only player able to activate events. The constable will change at the end of the round depending on certain circumstances. If they do not have enough hope, which is the currency used to buy these events, then other players can give them hope, and this is a good way of working out what a constable might be, a witch or a Puritan. At the end of the game, you will score points based on your character if your team wins. So this guy would get points for complete sets and also for matching icons. New Salem the Constable combines card drafting and tableau building with social deduction, and it does it quite well. I've not played the first iteration of this, but it was a really interesting game. My biggest criticism of the game is that in some groups, because of the more gamey natures of card drafting and tableau building, the table talk, which a social deduction is built on, has to be more intentional than you would normally find in a game like the Revolution, where that is the whole game. Have I said that right? Is it the right name? The Resistance. The Revolution. The Resistance. That is the game. Your table talk is the game. You go into the game knowing that. And you do go into New Salem knowing that, but then you're kind of looking at your cards going, right, what do I want to build? There can be one winner from each team, the Witches or the Puritans. So you're thinking, what gets me the most points but also helps my team? And I think the cost of that sometimes is that you lose the table talk, which social deduction games are built on. Having said that, when you clearly explain that this is a social deduction group game, primarily this is a game about talking about working out from the cards people draft whether they're a witch or not, then it works very well. The buildings, I love the aspect of buildings. I love building a tableau, and the fact that the buildings that are good for you often bring despair, or the buildings that will ultimately bring despair often bring hope, creates these really clever interactions where you're like, that person's got a lot of despair, but if they complete that building by the end of the game, then they're going to wipe it all out. So are they a witch? Are they just bluffing? Are they just going to keep 2 there? And also you can, because of the drafting, you can ditch certain cards on them to see what they do with them, which gives you a lot of insight. The constable power of triggering those events and being given hope by the other players to trigger them, because you don't know what the constable do if you give them hope, is really clever too. The fact that you don't want a trial played on a Puritan, but you do want it played on a witch. It's just a really clever weave through the game where the clues as to whether someone is a witch or a Puritan are just a little bit more subtle than perhaps is usual for a social deduction game. Some people are perhaps going to have a problem with that. I really liked it when the table engaged in the table talk. And that again is my biggest kind of caveat with New Salem, is that you need to go into this knowing it is a social deduction game. There needs to be table talk. Otherwise, you're just going to play out the cards, see if the witches won, and then see which person won on points. So, you need to go into it knowing it's social deduction. If you do that, I think you're going to have a really good time. The rules at this current stage were prototyped but super clear. I mean, after everything, there was a demonstration page of exactly how you would do that, and there was at the top of every page there was a reminder of the rules structure, so much so that I could just leave any page open and the rules, the flow of the round was just there. The game does not outstay its welcome. It's only 5 rounds, and I think that feels right for the game. It feels like it's not too long, not too short, especially if people start talking, and it gives you a chance to build a really lovely tableau. Generally, you're going to be putting 2 to 3 buildings into your tableau each round, and that kind of gets bigger as you reach the middle of the game and then gets less again. So by the middle of the game, you should have your suspicions about who the witches are. Of course, at lower player counts, there might not even be a witch in the game, which is delicious and a lot of fun. In fact, I always think that's more fun, having that suspicion and then getting to the end and being like relieved, but you've actually accused half your time of being a witch. The event cards work really well. They're varied enough. A little bit of luck there, yeah, sure, but they come out quite often, so you're going to see some really powerful ones. And I think from our games, again, they were a real clue to what the mind of the constable was. So in the new Constable Salem, in New Salem the Constable, you have a social deduction game with gamer elements that gives you a kind of more subtle and searching social deduction experience with gameplay. You need to know, though, to table talk. Once you do that, you're going to have an interesting experience. And as the years gone by, I've kind of gone off social deduction games, but this is one that I would gladly play again because I think it's more interesting than just whether a mission succeeded or failed. I think The Resistance is a good game, no offence against that, but for me the interactions here were more interesting, so therefore it makes it a social deduction game that I would prefer to play. If you're interested in that, please check below for the link to the Kickstarter, and we'll see you next time on Board, Deck and Dice.